Alrighty, here we go. Thunderbolts. Let me move this up a little bit. Thunderbolts live reaction. So I just got out of it about 20 or so minutes ago, and man, I liked this movie so much more than I thought I would. I thought this movie was fun. It was entertaining. It was funny. It was, in a way, deep. It'll definitely hit certain people more than others from the messaging within the movie. So that's more like on a personal basis. But it was a lot of fun. I had a great time with it. And with these Marvel movies, what I do, this is how I know if I like it. I'll walk out of the theater and I'll ask myself, okay, would I go by the next showtime right now and see it again? And if the answer is like, I guess, that means it was just okay. If the answer was no, obviously it means I didn't like it. And if the answer was, yeah, let's go do it, then obviously I liked it. And when I walked out of this movie, I'm like, damn, I would go see the 10:30 showing of this. So like, if my buddy was down, I would have been down. He's out of town, but either way. So like, I can't wait to see this movie again to be able to just like sit back and kind of, and in a way nitpick, but also look for everything else. There's tons of Easter eggs in this movie. You can just tell from like kind of just looking around, but you're too focused in on the story, that which is a good thing. And hold on, let me get this out of here. Which is a good thing, that you're enthralled in the story and that you actually care about these characters. And then so the way that this movie reminds me walking out, it reminds me a lot of the feeling from Guardians 1. Now, the difference is in Guardians 1, we didn't know any of the characters, but a lot of people, like I was a normie at the time and still, I mean, to this point, like I'm not deep into the comics, but I'm a lot deeper than I was back then. Pause. But it was also, so sorry, back to it. I didn't know anything about the Guardians. I thought it looked stupid. I wasn't looking forward to it, but I saw it because I knew in a way you almost had to. You didn't have to, but if you want, you had to. And so with this one, and I walked out of it and I loved it. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. With this one, I get the same kind of feeling, except we already know every single one of these characters except Bob. And Bob is I would say he's the heart of the movie. Yelena is the heart of the movie. But it's Bob is a new person that you I guess develop feelings for, in a way, if that makes sense. Like you empathize with him, you sympathize with whatever one you're supposed to work, whichever one you're supposed to say. I don't, empathy, sympathy, whatever. Correct me on what the difference is. I look it up all the time and then I forget about it. But either way, so like he's a character that you, if you can't connect to him, you can find a way to, and that's what Bob is. He's not in this. He's not in this right now. In this whatchamacallit, in this picture, but that's okay. So I liked that too, because it's a new team, yes, but it's with characters that we know. And I mean, Black Widow didn't get all that good of praise, but people liked Elena and people liked Red Guardian. People liked the characters in the movie. They just didn't like the direction of the movie or the script of the movie or the terrible CGI. The CGI in this is great. There's only very minor times where you can tell it's green screen, and that's probably because they reshot a scene because they didn't want to do ADR for it. So there's a couple scenes like with Bucky when he kind of had him tied up. That I was like, okay, that doesn't look like it's actually like on a set. But other than that, like everything with Sentry and Void look good. I didn't really like his costume that much, but I'll get to that later, I guess. Um, so with all that, it was a fun time, man. I had a really good time with this. So I guess let's start at the beginning of the movie. There will be full spoilers in here. I should probably edit that, but whatever. So at the start of the movie, it starts with Yelena. She is the central character to this movie. I would say her, Bob. I want to say Bucky, even though I think he's in less of the movie than the other characters. But I would say Yelena, Bob, and Bucky are like your trio in this new group movie. And so it starts with her, and a lot of people were worried, like, oh great, another female at the lead, at the center of the movie. She's one of the weakest ones there, like from a physical standpoint, when you're around super soldiers and people with powers and stuff. And I mean, yeah, she is, and they kind of get into that as well. But that doesn't change the fact that this story, she's meant to be the lead. Like it's not that she's forced to be the lead. It makes sense why she is. And so it starts off with her, and then she's just at a low point where she's like, I've lost everything. And then Alexei, the dad, you see this in the trailer, the dad's not talking to her, Red Guardian. He's not talking to her. She hasn't talked to them. So they probably just have this relationship that's like, hey, they don't reach out. I don't reach out. None of us need to reach out. It is what it is. But inside they're hurting. And so I like that. And so it's just going through like, okay, like I got to do this mission because they're all working for Val. And then it leads into like where we get to the trailer where they're all fighting each other. And then each one of them has like a story as to why they're hunting down the other and things like that. So, but with that though, Yelena, she's like I said, she's the heart of the movie. It dives. I like how much it dives actually into her training in the Red Room. We saw a lot of Natasha's, and then I wish we could see more of both of them, if I'm being honest. But throughout the whole MCU, we've seen all of Natasha's experiences in the Red Room, but we never saw any of Elena's. Or Elena, whatever. She just talked about it, but we didn't see it, and we actually saw it. We saw her first mission in the Red Room and what that did to her. She was a child that had to draw her friend out to the woods so her friend could get shot in the head and die. Like, dude, that's pretty heavy for a kid to go through on top of everything else they had to go through in the Red Room. It would have been cool if in the Red Room they had a like a cameo from a young Natasha or like a mention of her. I think that would have been cool, but it also isn't necessary. So there was that. I guess that's it with Yelena. I'll probably be jumping back and forth because as I say one thing, my mind just goes to like this part of the movie or that part of the movie. When she meets Red Guardian, same thing. He's low. He's like, oh yeah, life is good, but it's not. And he misses her and he misses fighting. He's some people are just bred to be fighters. And he's one of them, especially being a super soldier. He doesn't want to be driving in a limo service. He wants to be out there fighting, protecting his country. He even says that in the movie. He said, I felt the most alive. Sorry, I got a scratch. He felt the most alive when he was protecting his country. Now that country was Russia, but it's the United States now. So all good. And then Ghost, her story kind of stayed the same. It's just the same story that was explained in what's it called? Ant-Man and the Wasp. So nothing too different with her, but she was good. I like this actress and I don't mind this character. I wish they kind of went a little bit more into how she can get out of that chamber or whatever. Maybe I need to rewatch Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I mean, as far as I knew, she had to be in that chamber, otherwise she could just like lose her effects. So I'm just assuming that her suit does it for her now. They have some kind of technology from somebody somewhere. And then John Walker, and they do a great job making him the person you love to hate because boy is he an asshole in this. Everything that was established in Falcon and Winter Soldier, except like he gets angry in the way they does, but he's not out here murdering people like he wants to. And then they're there to be like, no, like we're not going to do that. So, but everything from Falcon and Winter Soldier, the show, they elevate him to. So like the aggression, it's a little bit elevated. The assholeness, I guess, of like the sarcasm and the wits and the chops and all that, it's elevated. So I liked that a lot. And then they make you be like, bro, like, why is this guy such a dick? And then in the movie, you find out that because of who he has become after taking this super soldier serum, like he's no longer just the perfect soldier like he was in the show, where he's good in combat and everything like that. He's a broken soldier. And ever since he lost that shield or killed that man, he just became more and more broken. And Val was in his head messing with him. And to the point to where his family left him. His wife left him and they had a little baby boy. And he's gone too. So he's lost his family. So the only way that he can kind of cope with it is being a dick to everybody. And so there's like an understandable aspect from that for his character. Bucky's just out there being a G like always. We know most of Bucky's backstory, so they didn't really need to get into it. So it was just awesome. It was a lot of fun. And the action was great. I think I've probably already said that. The action was great. What else? So I would say there's probably, I don't know, maybe a little bit too much of like comedic chops because like there's parts where it's a serious moment and not the entire audience can tell it's a serious moment. Like I was sitting next to two guys who were like, there's a really serious moment that happened when Yelena stepped into the void realm or shadow realm, whatever. And like the way that Red Guardian reacted, the guys next to me were laughing. Or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't that. It was Red Guardian had saved a little girl. And then he was all happy inside. He's like, I saved you. Like, you're good. Go to your mom now. And then Void just boop, turned into a shadow. And then the look on his face of just like in pure shock. I just saved her. Now she's gone. What do I do? And the guys next to me, I mean, maybe they had some fucking weed gummies or something. I don't know. But like they were laughing at his reaction to it, but you could tell from the acting and just the flow of the movie, it was supposed to be a serious moment, but because so many things with Red Guardian were already pretty funny, or tried to be at least, it's not going to be funny for everybody. I'm easily amused, so that helps me. But because of that, they probably assumed, oh, it's Red Guardian. It's a scene. We've been laughing when he's on scene. This is a funny moment. So things like that have kind of, or will kind of bring this movie down, but no other difference than a lot of other MCU movies. Like Iron Man 3, I think has the worst amount of trying too hard for comedy out of the entire MCU, like even more than the Guardians and stuff. Guardians 2 maybe kind of up there a little bit as well, but like this for me most time it fit. So like they let the serious moments be serious moments. It's just hard for some people to depict when those serious moments are, which I guess you could there's a fault in that sense, because I mean when it's serious in Infinity War, you know it's serious, but that movie is also pretty funny. So that's I would think that's my biggest flaw. The characters in this. So I said earlier, Yelena was the heart of the movie, and I think that where's my mouse here? Okay, there it is. I think that Bucky, he's the glue to the movie. In this movie, I think they do a great job at I mean, he's not around often, but when he is, it matters. So I think they did a great job with that. I think that he's also the glue because it shows how he can be a leader of a team or be there at least as a guide for a team, but also reestablishes there's a reason he wasn't given the shield. And I personally think he should have gotten the shield, if Cap or if Steve Cap was going to give it up. I understand why it went to Sam. I just think Bucky should have gotten it. But this movie helps explain more or kind of reiterate why that's the case, and why it's the case that he didn't get the shield. And I like that. I thought that worked for me. So again, he's the glue. There's scenes in the movie where like he comes and he just does cool shit, man, or he saves a person, or like they show the strength that he has as a super soldier. They don't bitch him down. So there's a scene in the trailer where like they're all holding up the big piece of a building or concrete or whatever, and then Yelena, or it's like it's Walker and then Ghost and then Red Guardian and then Yelena and then Bucky, and they can't get that thing up until Bucky's there to do it. So like it's not like Bucky was like one of the first or second people there, and then Yelena had come in, and then all of a sudden, because of Yelena's basic human strength, they can lift up this big ass concrete thing. Like, no, I think if this movie was made 3-4 years ago, yep, that would have been it exactly. But no, they brought Bucky in when he needed to be in, and he made the movie better. He made the characters around him better, and he held everything together. So that's why I think he was the glue to this. And then Bob. I don't have a picture of Bob up, but Bob, Luz Pullman did a good job at playing a character that has gone through some stuff, but tries to mask it, but you can still see the face behind the mask. I think he did a great job at that, and his acting did too. It's just like it's very skittish in a way to where he's just like, huh, like, yeah, I know, like I'm supposed to be in a good mood, and I am, but he's really not. I think he did a great job at that, and it almost in a way made it funny, but also you knew at the same time this is funny because it's hiding something, and we don't know what that something is yet. And then we find out later in the movie like where this came from. This is the biggest word of mouth piece going around right now is that this dives very deep into mental health, which it does. So those with mental health will like this movie quite a bit. They'll be able to connect with it. So like I personally am not diagnosed with anything, and I also think, just in my opinion, especially for dudes, it just can't be used as an excuse. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I just think it can't be used as an excuse. And I think a lot of people today use it as an excuse, but this movie doesn't use any of it as an excuse. It tells you and shows you why, hey, if you're feeling these things, you should talk about it to somebody. And that's why this group of misfits and trauma endured people come together, because they're the ones that are going to be there for each other moving forward. Because Bucky wouldn't be able to go have this conversation that he needs to have about his past with Steve, because Steve came from a good family. Steve was a good man that didn't commit a bunch of murders, things like that. But Bucky could go to Red Guardian, or he could go to Yelena and be like, hey, I'm feeling these things right now because of this, this, and that. And they would be able to connect with him that way because they've gone through similar situations. So that's basically the premise of this movie and this team. And I like that. I like that. I thought they did a good job displaying it for those that don't suffer from mental illness and kind of don't understand, to help them understand a little bit more, and also made it very connective for those with mental illness. It'll take those that suffer from mental illness to that next level with this movie, like in terms of liking it. That's just my opinion. That's what I think. Um, but there's a while ago, I'll skip around to this. A while ago, it was rumored that Yelena's that the name Thunderbolts came from Yelena's soccer team as a little girl. That's true. They went with that in the movie, but what I liked is that it was just a line that was brushed over. She said it. It was one and done, and then it was said another time or two as Red Guardian as a joke. They didn't do this whole like exposition backstory flashback of her playing soccer, doing this thing, and I love soccer, so I wouldn't have minded that, but doing this thing and then go like, oh, like, remember if you were on a soccer team, you know the banners that they used to make for the recreational soccer, like it didn't go into this thing like, oh, the Thunderbolts, and then just focus heavily on that and all of her backstory and everything like that. I didn't do that. She was just like, oh yeah, we were the blah 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 Thunderbolts. There's a soccer team, and then that's what it is. And then it's just like, oh, okay, cool. So just brush right over. I still think that Thunderbolts should have been the team that Ross assembled. But I mean, there's a time and a place for it, and the way that the MCU is, it's not the time or the place. So, which goes into when they're at the end of the movie and Red Guardians, he's like, yeah, let's call ourselves the Thunderbolts. He probably doesn't know that Red Hulk, Thaddeus Ross, he probably doesn't know that Red Hulk's nickname is Thunderbolt. How's he supposed to know that? He's been in prison for how long, and he just drives a limo service and watches old tapes from Russia? Like, he doesn't know, which is why Bucky's like, no, we can't call ourselves that. Like, it makes more sense in the movie than it did in the trailer. What I do wish would have happened, though, is that Bucky would have been like, dude, the guy that just tore up Washington, D.C. a couple months ago, his nickname's Thunderbolt. We're not going to call ourselves that because that's a bad look. So, because he's been part of an Avenger team, technically, at one point. So I wish a little line like that would have been thrown in, and then Red Guardian could have just made another joke or something like that. Who knows? But that's like one thing, which is a very small nitpick about just the name of it. And yes, it does become, or they do become, the new Avengers. Val, Julia Louis Dreyfus's, I'm not saying that name 10 times fast. Her character sets them up perfectly, and then it's just, so she's pretending to be there. Kind of, there's like parts of building that have fallen or something like that, and then there's like papers and stuff or whatever. Basically a screen. I'm just gonna call it a screen. That's not exactly what it is, but when you see it, you'll know. There's a screen there, and she's pretending to be on the phone, like, yeah, I need this, but she's doing it right in front of this team after they have helped Sentry out to win the battle, essentially. Which I'll get to that in a minute. And then they're all approaching her. They're like, oh, dude, like, we're gonna get her. She's busted, and stuff like that. And then she runs away from him, but she runs them away into a bunch of press. So they're just there, like, in awe, like, oh no, we just screwed ourselves. And then so she's like, and then I now present to you the new Avengers. And then she's like, I did all this. I set the whole thing up, or I set them up to be the new team or whatever. So then it's just like, oh, so like she set them up. It's played off as a joke, which a lot of people or some people might complain about it. I honestly don't care, because we all know what's coming, and that the name, the new Avengers, isn't going to last long anyways. So it's just like, to me, it makes sense the way they did it in the movie. It is what it is. It's nothing crazy. It's something to get excited for. So like, I wouldn't see the title, The New Avengers, and be like, oh, cool, more new Avengers movies are coming. Like, no, I'd just be like, I would still call them the Thunderbolts. And then going to the final battle, I've heard some criticism so far in the final battle, and that oh all Yelena does is talk Sentry down and talk him out of a battle, and that's quite frankly just not true. She finds him. So when he gets to, I'm just gonna call it, I don't know what it's called, I would assume it's called the Void, but the Void is the different place from Loki, so I'm just gonna call this the Shadow Realm. When they're in the Shadow Realm from Void slash Sentry, she finds Bob, the innocent part of Bob, and yes, she does talk to him, and she's like, we can get out of here, we can do this, because they all get trapped in there. And then he's like, no, we can't. And so it's basically a back and forth of, no, I can't, yes, you can. And then so she does talk to Bob. And then the Void, or not the Void, but Void, this is going to get really confusing. Void, the shadowy part of Sentry, starts kind of fucking him up from inside. They're in this room, and then he just, from it, starts throwing chairs and stuff like Darth Vader. And then so they fight out of that with the help of the rest of the team. The rest of the team is on the outside, and they come in to help them and find them, or to find them and help them. So they do. And then they go to what is called the worst room, which is the first time that Bob turned somebody into a shadow and sent them to the Shadow Realm. And so in there is Void, whatever his name. We're going to call it Void. It's not the Void, it's just Void. So the Shadow Sentry. And so he starts fighting him. Bob starts to fight Shadow Sentry. And so when he's wailing on him, he's beating him, and then they try to help out, but Shadow Sentry pushes them away, and then obviously they find ways to get back to it. So, but when they're there and Bob is beating on Shadow Sentry, they're not talking him down. They're telling him that they're there for him, which yes, it's talking, but it's not like in Captain America: Brave New World, where he's like, Ross, you don't have to do this. Remember Betty. And then Ross just all of a sudden calms down as a Hulk. Like, it's not like that. Bob is still there, pounding away on Shadow Sentry, crying because of how much this darkness has a hold on him. And as he's beating him up, the darkness is still growing. So it's like, in a way, it's like when Obi-Wan is like, when you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can ever imagine. It's like that, but a bad version of it. So Void's there, just letting himself get pounded on, because as soon as the rest of that darkness takes a hold of Bob, then it's game over. There is no more light. So the rest of the team comes there and is telling him, as he's pounding away on Shadow Sentry, don't do this, because it will make you fully become the thing you hate, the thing you don't like the most. And then so, and it does help him, but it's not like they just sat there while he was destroying all of New York, turning everybody into shadows, and for whatever reason, just the 5 of them weren't being beat on, and then she's just there looking up, talking to him while he's flying in the sky, saying like, no, don't do this, please. It's not like that. And so that's what a lot of the criticisms have come out to sound like, and that's just not true. It's completely different, and I think, in my opinion, it fits. I like this movie. I like this movie and these scenes a lot. They make sense. So with that, I know I'm missing a bunch, but I had a lot of fun with it. I plan on seeing it again this weekend, and that's something I didn't plan on saying when I walked into the theater. So that's a good sign for me already. What do I want to give this movie? I have to go back through and compare almost all the rest of the MCU, but for me, this beats, I want to say this beats everything in Phase 5, but I do love Deadpool and Wolverine. A lot of people have started to hate that movie just out of nowhere. And there's things that I don't like about it. I don't like the reason that Deadpool went back to being Deadpool. I think that was a stupid reason. It made no sense at all. But everything else I liked. I liked the nostalgia bait. Like, give me some more. Like, I didn't have enough of it. I think it's funny. As I said earlier, I'm easily entertained. So I wouldn't put it above Deadpool and Wolverine, but I understand if somebody would. Other than that, I would put it above everything else in Phase 5 and maybe almost everything in Phase 4. I got to go back through and look at it, but this movie reminds me of early MCU, if I'm being honest. And from the 2010 to probably 2015 range in there. So like those solid 5 years, I could see this movie fitting in that kind of slot with the style of the way that this movie was made. And so, yeah, I liked it a lot. If you couldn't tell, I'm still going all over the place with this in my mind right now. But I'll be doing a full spoiler like review with like a well put together, or as well put together as I can. I'm still new to this, but a better put together video, kind of breaking more things down and talking a little bit more in depth, and not probably not mumbling as much either. But yeah, so let's see. Anything else before I go? Oh, okay. I mean, I guess we could talk about Taskmaster real quick. She got canned in the first freaking. I think that actress probably only had a total of like 30 seconds of screen time if you add it all up, if that. I do kind of wish that the character would have lasted into the second act and died in the second act, or died maybe from Void, aka Shadow Sentry. I do kind of wish that, just to give her a little bit more, because the way that the character was treated in Black Widow wasn't fair to the actress. And it was a cool fight scene that she was in, but I mean, when she got shot dead, it was like, oh, okay, cool, bye. So nothing too crazy about that. And then let's talk about the post credit scenes real quick. One, you could 100% tell that the first post credit scene was shot probably 2 weeks ago, a month ago, maybe. David Harbour looks a lot like how he does now, and he's got the hair growing out and everything like that. But the second post credit scene is the first time in a very long time. It's a decently chunked post credit scene, like chunk of time, and it makes sense. So it does a time jump, and then now the team, the new Avengers, they have the Avengers Tower. They have something. They're talking. Yelena's talking to Bucky about Bucky talking to Sam about the Avengers name and everything like that, and that Sam's upset about it and whatever. I mean, the only person that Sam has on his team is another Falcon, so it's basically just two of the same people. I don't know why they wouldn't just join together. Um, but so there's that, and then they're talking. There's a funny scene with Red Guardian, and then they're like, oh, there's this like anomaly up in space, and it's like, oh, satellite, go to the image, blah blah, and then they go and then they zoom in and you see a ship. It's the same ship from the second trailer for Fantastic Four, and then the ship's turning, and then you see the four, and then it does the logo, or it does the music theme for Fantastic Four. So that's something to look forward to in that movie's post-credit scene, or maybe it's just in the movie itself before the post-credit scene even rolls. So that was finally a post-credit scene, I would say, ever since Shang-Chi, that tells you, okay, this is where the story's going, and here's what to get excited for next. And they haven't done that in a very long time. This was a post-credit scene that was worthy of being there. So many of them weren't, like the Wheaties box one that I just talked about with David Harbour in the grocery store. It's funny. It just plays at a joke that we all know about. So like it's not necessary, but like, hey, if you wanted a second one, sure, like it's another Red Guardian joke. But that second one is awesome. Like, it's worth the price of watching this movie just to see that post credit scene. And speaking of Red Guardian, real quick though, there are a lot of joke comments that he has and stuff like that. Like, most of his lines are jokes, kind of like Iron Man in a way. But he and Yelena do have a couple very good like heart to heart scenes, and especially if you're a father with a daughter, and then, or if you're like, A, if you're a father with a daughter, but B, if you're a father with a daughter and you guys have kind of been distanced or didn't have maybe the best relationship growing up, these scenes will hit heavy for those people. So I would definitely see it for that too. Like, I think it does a great job at balancing the serious moments with the funny moments. It just depends on the individual person on whether or not they can have the common sense to put that together. So that's on you. If you can't find it out, then you're stupid. Just kidding. Not really. But yeah. So that, and I think that about wraps it up for just my afterthoughts, just immediate afterthought viewings with obviously some spoilers in there. But yeah, anything else? Let's see. Anything else? I would say, let me just give this a ranking and then I'll get out of here. I would rank this movie. Ooh, okay. I would rank this movie about an 8.7. And real quick, before I explain into that, which I think I probably have throughout this stream, I wish that I actually even made a comment on this on the Den of Nerds channel a few months back. I think Captain America: Brave New World should have released last year, and then so that way it's a movie, because this movie blows that movie out of the water. I actually really don't even mind Captain America: Brave New World all that much. I don't think it's that bad. I think this movie is infinitely better than that one, and I would watch it 100 times over. So I think Captain America: Brave New World should have released last July when Deadpool came out. And then we'd have a big long break of MCU because everybody would have shat on that movie even more then. And it still would have lost money just like it did this year. But at least that way, we would have had a long break from July to February of this year and had Deadpool and Wolverine released this February, have this movie released now as it is, and Fantastic Four released in July as it will. I think with that case, you would have had three. Well, so far, 2 out of 3. We don't know about Fantastic Four. I'm just going to assume Fantastic Four is going to be good. So if that was the case, if they kept Deadpool until this year, released in February, this one now, and then Fantastic Four in July, you would have had 3 bangers, all back to back, all money banks going into Doomsday. Not like one good one and then a long break of Marvel, and then when we finally get back to Marvel, it's a stinker. And then a good one, and then hopefully the next one's good too. It'll continue that trend again. But that's what I would have done if I was running the studio, if I'm being honest. But also, all with that, this is now the first movie where Kevin Feige had his power back. All these other movies were put into development long before, where he lost his power as the studio head and wasn't able to have any creative control, really very minor control than compared to what he used to have. And this is the first movie back where he's got full control, where he can say, no, we're going to go and reshoot this. And if we're not, then we're going to delay the movie. So, and I think it showed. I very much think it showed in this movie. And they had a good team that they put together. I would love to see a second iteration of this after Secret Wars, and with the same cast and same team, same writers, same directors. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So I guess we have to see what's going to happen, because they're going to bring X-Men in and all these other Fantastic Four, all these other things in. So there's going to be a bunch of stuff going on after Secret Wars. But I would like, if they released one of these in Phase 4 and then another one at the end of Phase 5, oh man, I would be hyped. I would be excited. So yeah, okay. So let me end this. 8.7 out of 10 as far as Marvel movies go. This is one of the best movies that they've released in years. It's one of the most fun movies they've released in years. I didn't walk out of the theater being like, oh my God, is this where we're going with Marvel? Didn't have that. I walked out of the theater and was like, dang, if I could, I'd go see it again right now. So that's a good sign for me. Let me know what you guys think down below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and you guys have yourselves a good rest of the night. I got to get to bed. I got work in the morning. Peace.